The night was quiet and warm. Street lights made long yellow pools on the road. Maya sat in her small gray sedan at the edge of the parking lot where she worked. She was tired in a normal way, the kind of tired that comes from a full day and a long list that never ends. She rubbed her thumb over the smooth key fob and let out a slow breath. She liked to leave when most people had already gone. The silence gave her space to think. She checked her purse in the passenger seat, her phone in the holder, and the slim leather wallet tucked inside the side pocket. Maya did things with care. She had learned to. She was in her early 30s and liked order, neat lists, clean counters, shoes placed heel to toe by the door. She worked at a community center that helped people with forms and job searches. She liked the feeling of being useful. On the wall by her desk, a small calendar still showed last month. She smiled at that, then promised herself she would change it tomorrow. She started the car and the radio came on low, a gentle song, the kind that sounds like a deep breath after a long day. She was licensed to carry. That choice had come after a break-in at her old apartment, a scary night when a stranger rattled her door and would not go away. The police came, and the person left, but the fear stayed. A friend told her about a safety course. She listened, studied, and trained with patient instructors who repeated the same rule: respect, caution, clarity. She passed the tests. She kept her license up to date. She practiced how to speak in calm, short sentences in case she was ever stopped. She never wanted trouble. She wanted to go to work, do her best, and come home safe. Before she pulled away, she sent her mother a voice note. "Hi, Mom. I'm leaving now. I'll call when I get home." She thought of her mother's habit of asking if she had eaten, if she was warm, if the doors were locked. The questions were love, shaped like worry. On the passenger seat lay a small paper bag with a half sandwich she had saved. She decided to give it to the man who sometimes sat near the bus stop. She liked small kindnesses. They were like seeds, you did not always see what they grew into, but you planted them anyway. The route home took her past the grocery store, 2 schools, and a small park with wooden benches. The traffic was thin. She caught green lights like a gift. The radio host read a local story about a library opening later hours. Maya smiled. She loved libraries. She had grown up in their cool quiet, where all the knowledge waited on shelves for anyone to take home. She planned to go on Saturday. She made a small plan in her head: coffee, laundry, library, call with her cousin in the afternoon. Small plans were anchor lines. They kept her mind steady. She knew one of her brake lights sometimes flickered. It was a recent problem. She had already booked an appointment for the next day to get it fixed. When she pressed the pedal that evening, she glanced in the rearview mirror and saw the soft red glow. It looked fine. She went on. A block later, a set of headlights settled behind her as steady as a shadow. She did not think much about it at first. It was a city. Cars followed other cars. But then the blue and red lights flashed, sudden and bright, like a storm had popped out of a clear sky. Her training rose to the surface like a song she knew by heart. Signal. Slow. Find a safe, well-lit spot. She turned on her blinker, eased to the shoulder near a lamp post, and put the car in park. She rolled the window down halfway. She set both hands on the wheel at 10 and 2. She turned off the radio. She took one more breath. Her heart beat a little faster, not because she had done anything wrong, but because lights and sirens make anyone's heart jump. She spoke aloud, to the quiet air inside the cabin, "Stay calm. Use your words." The officer walked up to her door. She saw his outline in the side mirror first, a tall figure, a stiff posture, a bright handheld light that cut across the interior of her car. He spoke in a short, hard tone. "License and registration." She did not move her hands yet. "Officer," she said, keeping her voice even, my wallet is in my purse on the passenger seat. My registration is in the glove box. I am licensed to carry, and I am carrying. I want to follow your instructions. She had practiced that sentence in her safety class until it felt natural and clear. The officer's light stayed in her eyes. Don't move, he said. Then, almost on top of the first order, he added, give me your license. The two commands collided in the space between them. Maya kept still. Confusion and caution tugged at each other in her chest. She had been taught to ask for clarity. Sir, she said, very slow, do you want me to move now or wait? I will do exactly what you say. Her hands did not leave the wheel. Outside, a car passed and the wind made a small wave against her door. A window clicked open in a nearby building. Someone looked out. The neighborhood was not busy, but it was awake in the quiet way residential streets are awake. Dogs on porches, a cat slipping under a fence, a porch light turning on, a curtain moving. A jogger slowed on the sidewalk. The jogger's eyes went from the flashing lights to Maya's car, then to the officer's stance. Maya noticed and felt a thin thread of comfort. Witnesses help. She remembered her instructor's advice, stay visible, stay verbal, keep your hands where they can be seen, do not rush, do not guess. Where is it? The officer asked. His light left her eyes and swung to the purse. In the purse, sir, she said. The safety is on. I can keep my hands here while you take the purse, or I can step out if you tell me to. I just want to follow instructions. She was careful with each word, like she was placing glass on a shelf. The radio on his shoulder crackled. Another voice said something she could not make out. The officer's jaw tightened. He took a half step closer. The smell of warm pavement and engine heat pressed in through the open window. Maya felt the urge to explain everything at once, the class, the license, the flicker in the brake light, the repair appointment, the voice note to her mother, the sandwich for the man at the bus stop. But she knew more words were not always better. Clear words were better. Sir, she said again, I will not move until you tell me to. My license is in my wallet. My wallet is in my purse. My registration is in the glove box. Please tell me which you want first. She kept her breath steady. She could feel her pulse in her fingertips on the wheel. The officer's flashlight traced the curve of the dashboard, the line of her arm, the closed glove box. He asked where she worked. She answered. He asked where she was going. She answered. The questions came fast. She stayed steady. In the side mirror, the dash lights of his car blinked like a heartbeat. The jogger had taken out a phone and was holding it upright at chest height, recording. Across the street, a neighbor had stepped onto her porch. The woman crossed her arms and watched. The street held its breath. Even the leaves seemed to hush. Maya remembered a scene from her training. The instructor had shown them a video of a traffic stop that stayed calm because both sides had been careful with tone and timing. Time is a tool, the instructor had said. You can slow a moment down with breath and simple words. Maya did that now. I want to go home safe, she said softly, but loud enough to be heard. I will follow your instructions. Her hands did not shake. Her shoulders did not rise. She felt the car's gentle hum and let it anchor her. Step out, the officer said suddenly. Then, before she could move, no, stay. License first. The confusion landed like a small stone in her stomach. She pressed her back into the seat, a tiny adjustment to remind her body to stay still. Sir, she said, I need one clear instruction. She did not add anything else. She did not try to fill the silence. She waited. A siren wailed faintly in the distance, then grew, then softened, as if another patrol car had turned onto a different street. A dog barked twice and was quiet. He asked again about the purse. She answered again in the same words, the same even tone. She offered a simple plan: if you prefer, you may take the purse yourself while I remain still. Or you can tell me to step out slowly and I will do that. The plan was not hers, not really. It was the plan from the safety class. It gave options and control to the officer and kept her safe at the same time. It made sense. It was reasonable. She waited. The light moved back to her face. She looked at the officer's shoulder, not his eyes, because her instructor had said that could feel less challenging. The phone on her dash glowed with a soft screen. She had not reached for it, and she would not. But she saw her mother's name on the lock screen from the voice note she had sent earlier. The sight gave her a quiet courage. She pictured her mother's kitchen, the plant on the windowsill with small green leaves, the kettle that whistled too loud. She pictured the library plan for Saturday. She pictured herself there, choosing a book, laughing with the librarian about how overdue her last return had been. Pictures are small prayers, she thought. They remind us of tomorrow. A breeze carried the smell of rain from far away, that wet stone smell that comes before a storm. The street light hummed. The world had narrowed to a cone of white light, a set of careful sentences, and the shape of two hands at 10 and 2. It was strange to be so still and feel so much. She noticed everything: the scratch in the plastic on the steering wheel, the faint music still buzzing inside the radio even though the volume was down, the way her breath touched her top lip on the way out. Noticing kept her present. Present kept her safe. The officer shifted his weight. His hand hovered near his hip. She saw the movement but did not let her gaze snap to it. The instructor had warned them, sudden looks can read like sudden moves. Keep your head level. Keep your voice level. Be a lighthouse, not a spark. She followed that. Officer, she said again, please tell me what to do next. She thought of the jogger with the phone, the neighbor on the porch, the person behind the curtain, the quiet cars passing farther down the block, the city that was always watching and always sleeping at the same time. The moment stretched like a held note. Not forever, but long enough to feel long. Her arms grew warm from holding still. Her mouth felt dry. She swallowed once. She did not rush. She did not guess. She listened for the next clear instruction. She wanted a single word: license, or step, or wait. She could follow any of those words. She could follow them well. She had spent so much time practicing how to be calm that staying calm was a kind of strength now, not only a choice. Strength can be quiet. It can be two hands on a wheel, steady as the horizon. Okay, she said to herself in a whisper no one else could hear, we are going to finish this with care. She knew care could be a shield. It protected her from panic and it protected the officer from her fear being read as disobedience. She did not know what the next minute would bring, but she knew what she would bring to it: breath, clarity, patience. She was not a headline or a label. She was a person who loved libraries and made voice notes for her mother and gave sandwiches to people waiting at bus stops. She held those truths like anchors inside her chest. Across the street, the neighbor took one step down from the porch and stood at the edge of the yard with her arms loose at her sides. The jogger lowered the phone a little, then lifted it again. A car turned onto the block and slowed, then moved on. In Maya's side mirror, red and blue reflections flowed over the officer's car and then over her own, as if waves were washing back and forth. The city breathed. The night waited. Maya waited with it, her hands steady, her voice ready, her heart set on the simple wish she had spoken, to go home safe. The officer's flashlight stayed on Maya's face. The beam felt like a wall of white between them. She kept both hands on the wheel, steady at 10 and 2, the way she had practiced. The street was still quiet. The jogger across the way held a phone up like a small window. The neighbor on the porch did not move. Maya could hear the soft tick of her cooling engine and the faraway sound of another siren bending around corners somewhere else in the city. "License," the officer said again. His voice was tight. "Now." Maya did not move yet. "Sir, my wallet is in my purse on the passenger seat," she said in the same slow tone. "My registration is in the glove box. I am licensed to carry and I am carrying. Please tell me what to do." "Don't move," he said. The two orders sat next to each other like mismatched puzzle pieces. Maya breathed once, long and even. "I will not move until you give me one clear instruction," she said. She kept her eyes on his shoulder, not his eyes. Her instructor had said that could feel calmer for both people. The flashlight slid from her face to the purse, then to the glove box, then back. The officer's shoulders were high and tight. He took a small step closer. "License," he said again, louder. "Hands where I can see them." "They are on the wheel," Maya said. "Do you want me to get the wallet or wait?" He did not answer the question. The radio on his shoulder crackled with a short burst of sound that she could not understand. He turned his head as if listening, then faced her again. "Step out," he said, sharp. Maya stayed still. "I will step out if you want," she said. "Please confirm. Do you want me to step out now?" He did not confirm. He leaned closer to the window. The flashlight washed over the edge of her seat, the center console, the tiny hair tie near the cup holder. His tone rose. "License. Hands up." "Step out," he said, all in a row like falling blocks. "Sir, I need one instruction," Maya said. She heard her own voice and thought, "You sound steady." "Good. Keep it steady. Tell me to step out and I will. Or tell me to get the license and I will." The officer's hand hovered near his hip. Maya did not look at it. She focused on the wheel. The jogger shifted his weight and raised the phone higher. A second window opened across the street. Someone else was watching. A car turned at the end of the block and slowed, then kept going. "Unbuckle," the officer said. "Slow." "Unbuckle," Maya repeated, to show she had heard. "I will move slowly. My right hand will go to the seat belt." She waited one more beat, then moved. Her right hand slid from the wheel to the belt button. Her left stayed at 12 o'clock on the wheel. The belt was stiff. It caught on the edge of her jacket. She pressed the button. The belt snapped loose and the strap moved across her shoulder with a small, quick sound. The flashlight jerked. The officer flinched. In the air between them, the sound that followed was sudden, hard, and shocking. It cracked the night open like a dropped plate on a tile floor. Maya felt a bright sting along her upper arm, fast and hot, like touching a pen by mistake. She pulled in a breath. For a second, the world got narrow, only the steering wheel under her fingers and the high, loud ring in her ears. She did not look down. She knew not to. Names for the feeling crowded her mind and she set them aside. She needed to act, not name. Her training moved first. The rules she had learned were clear and simple: if your life is in danger, use the least you can to stop the danger. Do not rush. Do not guess. Announce what you are doing. "Shots," she said loud and clear, using the short word the instructor had taught. "I am in danger." Her voice surprised her by how calm it sounded. She took cover as well as she could inside the car. She leaned low to the right, behind the line of the doorframe. Her head and body stayed small. Her left hand slid down from the wheel, slowly, so slowly, like it was moving through syrup. "Officer," she said, "I am going to protect myself." She wanted him to hear her. She wanted the neighbors to hear her. She wanted the phone camera to hear her. Her purse sat on the passenger seat, where she had said it was. She edged her fingers toward it, slow and plain, Like every move was a sentence you could read from across the street. She unzipped the top with a careful tug. The small lockbox inside opened with a simple latch. The same quiet tool she had trained with rested inside. She took it in her hand. Her grip was correct because she had practiced it many times, not because her body felt calm. It did not. It felt like it was made of humming wires. "Stop," the officer shouted. He sounded more startled than before. The flashlight beam trembled on the side of her seat. Maya stayed small behind the doorframe. She thought of the safety rules again, like they were printed on the inside of her eyelids: one breath, one look, one action, and then stop. She was not trying to win anything. She was trying to live and to help everyone step back from panic. She made one move. She aimed away from him and fired a single time, low, at the ground near the front of her car. It was a sound, a warning, a line drawn on the night that said, "Do not come closer, stop." The sound slapped the street and rushed away, bouncing off buildings and then fading. She put the tool down right away. No extra motion. No second try. She placed it on the floorboard, slid it away from her foot, and said, "I am placing it down. I am not holding it. My hands are going up." Her hands went high and empty. She sat very still. "I am hurt," she called, voice steady. "I need help. I am not moving." She kept her head still so the officer could see the shape of her. She knew he was scared, she was scared too. Fear made everything louder and smaller. She wanted to make it bigger again, to add air back to the moment. Across the street, the neighbor gasped, one hand to her mouth. "I'm calling for help," the woman said to no one in particular and also to everyone. The jogger spoke into his phone, giving the location, the street name, the nearest cross street. A delivery driver farther down the block turned off his van and stared, then took out his phone, too. The world had many eyes now. It made the air feel heavier and also safer. "Hands high," the officer shouted. "Don't you move." "My hands are high," Maya said. "I am not moving. I am asking for medical help for my arm. I am going to keep speaking so you know where I am." Her voice was even. She let each word land and rest. She wanted him to hear that she was a person, not a shape. Her arm pulsed with a hot ache. She focused on her breath instead. In for 4 counts, out for 4. She had learned that in a different class a long time ago, in a cool room with soft music. It helped. It made space around the pain. It made the night wider. She turned her head a little toward the open window without lowering her hands. "Sir," she said, "I want this to end safely for both of us. I will follow every instruction." Sirens grew louder. The sound wound toward them and then burst onto the block, bright and close. Blue and red washed over the street like slow water. A second patrol car stopped behind the first. A third rolled up and parked at an angle. The new lights made the jogger look pale and the neighbor's porch glow like a small stage. "Stay where you are," another voice shouted, but this one carried different edges. It was brisk but not panicked, like a teacher calling over a noisy classroom. "Driver, hands where we can see them. Officer Cole, step back, step back." So that was his name. Maya had not known it until that moment. She did not look to see where he had moved. Her eyes stayed on the windshield frame. Her hands stayed high. "My hands are up," she said. "I am not moving. I am asking for medical help." "Do not reach for anything," the teacher voice said. "We see your hands. Keep speaking. Say your name." "My name is Maya Thompson," she said. Saying her name made her feel more like herself. She said it again. She said where she worked. She said she had called her mother before leaving. She said she was licensed to carry and had told the first officer that. She said where the purse was. She said the tool was on the floorboard and that she had placed it there and was not touching it. She said she would not move without a clear instruction. Okay, Maya, the new voice said. Good job. Keep your hands up. We are going to approach slowly. We want this calm. Calm, she thought. Yes. Please. The word felt like water. The pain in her arm rose and fell like a small wave. She could feel sweat on her forehead even though the night was not hot. The city's smell, pavement, dust, the distant hint of rain came through the window. Officer, do you have gloves? Someone else said near the new car. Get the medkit ready. Ambulance is 2 minutes out. 2 minutes. That was a small, countable thing. Maya loved small, countable things. They helped shape a moment into something you could hold. She silently counted to 10 and then back to 1. She thought of the library plan for Saturday. She thought of her mother's kettle and the plant on the sill. She thought of the man at the bus stop and the half sandwich in the paper bag. She was still the same person who had made those plans. She reminded herself of that. Footsteps came closer, slow and measured. The teacher voice spoke again, now closer to her window. Maya, we are here. Do not turn your head. Keep looking forward. Good. We see your hands. We see the purse. We see the item on the floorboard. Thank you for keeping your hands up. You are doing well. Thank you, Maya said. The words felt odd and right at the same time. Gratitude in a hard moment felt like a bridge laid down between two cliffs. We are going to open your door, the voice said. Do not move. We will help you out slowly. Medical support is here. Maya nodded without lowering her hands. I understand, she said. I will not move. Metal clicked. The door opened with its usual soft creak, a sound she had stopped noticing in daily life and now would never forget. Cool air slid over her knees. Gentle, careful hands guided her. She kept her hands high until someone said, you can lower them now. Keep them visible. Good. She did as told. She looked at the sidewalk, at the little cracks and tiny pebbles, at a single leaf stuck near the curb. I am hurt, she said again, because she needed them to keep that at the center. My arm. We see, a new voice said, closer and calm. We're here. Stay still. Help is here. An ambulance pulled up. The red and white lights turned the street into a slow pulse. Paramedics stepped down and walked toward her with bags and calm faces. Their calm felt like a blanket. Maya breathed in and out and held onto the sound of their steps and the simple words they used. We've got you, one of them said. We've got you. Maya did not try to explain anything else. She had said what needed saying. She had acted as little as possible to stop danger and then she had stopped acting. She had kept her hands visible, her voice clear, and her movements slow. She let the professionals take the next steps. She stared at the edge of the sidewalk, where someone had chalked a faint hopscotch grid that the rain had half erased. The little squares looked like a path. One square, then another, then another. That was how you moved through a hard night, she thought. One careful square at a time. The neighbor on the porch lowered her hand from her mouth and nodded to Maya as if to say, I saw. The jogger kept filming but his shoulders dropped from around his ears, a small sign that the moment had softened. A dog barked once and then fell quiet, as if even the dog knew it was time to let quiet do its work. Maya listened to the paramedics as they spoke softly in short sentences, naming what they were doing before they did it. She answered when asked. She did not add any extra words. She let the night widen around her again. Somewhere in that widening, she found the next breath, and then the next. Sirens dimmed. Engines hummed at idle. Radios murmured. The city breathed with her, and she breathed with it, waiting for the next clear instruction and believing it would come. The paramedics worked with quick, careful hands. They spoke to Maya in short, gentle sentences the way people do when they want to keep fear small. "We're going to clean your arm. You'll feel pressure. You're doing great." One of them introduced herself as Lena and asked for Maya's mother's number. Maya recited it. Lena tapped the digits into a phone and said, "Hi, this is an EMT with the city. Your daughter is okay. She's alert. We're taking her to Memorial." She paused, then added, "Yes, you can meet us there." Blue and red light washed over everything as they lifted Maya onto a gurney. She kept her eyes on the sky. It was a flat dark with a soft hint of clouds, the kind of night that seemed to hold its breath. As the ambulance doors shut, she heard voices outside, orders, radio codes, someone asking for cones, someone else saying, "Secure the scene." She heard the comm officer again, the teacher voice, "Give a list, separate witnesses, collect names, do not discuss details on the sidewalk. Turn on body cams if not already on." Inside the ambulance, Lena wrapped Maya's arm and started a blood pressure cuff. The other paramedic, a man with kind eyes, asked for her full name and date of birth. Maya repeated her name and felt steadier each time she said it. The siren came on, then softened to a steady pulse. The ambulance moved. Lena smiled at Maya every few seconds as if to say, "You are not alone." At the hospital, bright lights and clean smells took over. A nurse asked for consent to cut her sleeve. Maya nodded. The nurse showed Maya each step before doing it: cleaning, numbing, dressing, a thin line of tape. "Your vitals are good," she said. "We'll keep you for observation tonight." A security officer stood near the door, not in a threatening way, more like a guard for quiet. After a while, the comm officer from the street, now with a name tag that read Lieutenant Rivera, appeared outside the curtain. She spoke from the doorway, hands visible, voice steady. "Maya, I'm Lieutenant Rivera. I was at the scene. I want you to rest. When you're ready, I'm going to offer you paperwork explaining your rights and what happens next. You can have a lawyer with you for any questions. Would you like water?" "Yes, please," Maya said. Her throat felt like dry paper. The water tasted like rain. Her mother arrived a short time later, breathless and teary, but holding herself together because that is what she did when it mattered. She pressed her forehead to Maya's and whispered, "I'm here." Then she said it again, in case the first one had not landed, "I'm here." They stayed like that for a long, quiet minute, the clock on the wall counting time like a gentle metronome. At the precinct, a different kind of night began. Officer Cole sat in a small interview room with a union representative and an internal affairs detective. The detective read the standard script about rights and duty to report. A supervisor asked for his body camera. Another officer collected the dash camera from his patrol car and signed a receipt. Procedures, steps, signatures. The slow machine of accountability began to turn. Cole looked pale under the fluorescent lights. He spoke in short, clipped answers at first, then longer ones when pressed. A sergeant noted that his statements would be matched with video and witness accounts. Back on the block, the jogger who had filmed the stop, the one who had held his phone steady like a small window, gave his name as Luis. He looked like a person who ran to calm his mind, someone who understood rhythm and breath. He told the lieutenant what he saw, then played the clip for her. The video showed the flashing lights, the beam on Maya's face, the early back and forth, then the orders stacked on each other too fast to follow. It caught the sharp sound that split the night and the way Maya's voice stayed calm as she said, "I am hurt. I need help." It caught her saying where her purse was and that she was licensed to carry. It caught her saying she would follow instructions. When the clip ended, Luis looked at the ground for a second as if searching for the right place to set a heavy stone. "I'll email this to you," he said. "And I can send it to her lawyer if she wants." Across the street, the neighbor who had watched from the porch gave her statement, too. Her name was Miss Daniels. She wore a robe with small flowers on it and held a mug like a small anchor in her hands. She said she heard the orders and could not tell which one was the one to follow. She said she saw Maya sit still with her hands up and heard her ask for help. She said, "I've lived on this block 23 years. I know the sounds here. That night didn't sound right. It sounded rushed." Detectives marked the pavement with small yellow tents and numbers. Crime scene technicians took photos of the doorframe, the seat belt, the purse on the passenger seat. They found the mark in the asphalt where Maya's single warning shot had struck low near the front tire. They placed a little cone by it and photographed that, too. No one used big words for it. They called things by plain names, a mark, a round, a casing. They logged them into small bags and wrote the time. By morning, the city knew. News trucks rolled up to the block with tall antennas that stretched like metal reeds. Reporters spoke into cameras with careful tones. A few used words that made Maya's mother flinch. Others spoke slower and asked for verified details. A civil rights group set up a small table with coffee and a sign that read, "Witnesses, please check in here." A pastor from a church 2 streets away stood near the curb and offered prayer to anyone who wanted it. Some accepted. Others said, "Thank you," and kept walking. The bus stop man, the one Maya had planned to give a sandwich, told the volunteers that a woman on the porch had taken the paper bag from Maya's car after the ambulance left and brought it to him. She said, "This was meant for you," he told them. He smiled, a quiet, surprised smile, like a person who had been seen. At the hospital, a new day filtered through the blinds. A social worker introduced herself and said she could connect Maya with legal help. Maya already had a name in mind, a lawyer who had helped her friend with a housing case 2 years before. She asked her mother to call. The lawyer, Miss Green, answered on the second ring and said, "I'm on my way." When Miss Green arrived, she shook Maya's hand and sat in the chair by the bed. Her presence was like a clear glass of water. She asked Maya to tell her the story from the beginning. Maya started with the small things: the calendar at work, the quiet parking lot, the voice note to her mother, the plan to stop by the library on Saturday. She told the story step by step, without extra words, the way she had lived it. Miss Green wrote notes in neat, exact handwriting and nodded here and there as if the nods were stepping stones for the story to cross the room. Lieutenant Rivera came to the doorway again and asked if she could leave the rights paperwork. Miss Green thanked her and said, "We'll review and respond in writing." Rivera said, "Understood," and did not push. She turned to Maya. "The department will release a statement later today," she said. "I wanted you to hear that from me. We're also moving quickly to secure all video. I know this is a lot." Rest. In the afternoon, the police chief stood at a podium under a gray sky and spoke to the press. He confirmed the basic facts: a traffic stop, an officer's discharge of a weapon, a civilian who was licensed to carry and notified the officer, a single shot returned as a warning, immediate surrender, medical care. He said the officer was on administrative leave pending investigation. He said the city would release the first 45 minutes of relevant body cam and dashcam video within 72 hours, with sensitive details blurred. He said, "We will follow the truth where it leads." Some people in the crowd believed him. Some did not. Trust is a door that opens slowly when it has been shut too many times. That evening, the video began to circulate. Luis's clip reached millions of phones within hours. The street looked both ordinary and changed when seen through a small screen. You could hear the calm in Maya's voice and the nod of orders. You could hear the crack that changed the night and the way the world paused afterward. You could hear Lieutenant Rivera take command and slow everything down like a hand lowering the volume knob. Comments flooded in, some careful, some reckless. Miss Green told Maya, "Don't read them. Focus on rest, on your statement, on the facts. Maya nodded. She let the phone rest face down on the bed table. In the days that followed, Miss Green sent letters to the department and the city asking for all recordings, the 911 logs, the dispatch timeline, and the officers' training records on traffic stops, de-escalation, and interactions with licensed carriers. She also met with the district attorney's office and requested that Maya be interviewed once, with counsel, on the record, with video, and that the interview be scheduled only after all footage was reviewed. "We keep the process clean," she said. "Clean process leads to clear outcomes." Maya went home to her small apartment with the plant on the windowsill and the kettle that whistled too loud. Her mother stayed the first few nights. Friends stopped by with soup. The community center where Maya worked sent flowers and a stack of cards signed in different handwritings, "We love you. Take time. We've got your desk covered." One card was from a woman whose resume Maya had helped last month. It read, "When I was scared, you slowed me down and helped me breathe. Now I'm sending that back to you." Meanwhile, the city council scheduled a public safety hearing. People lined up to speak: a teacher, a former officer, a nurse, a teenager who said he wanted to grow up in a city where rules made sense and were the same for everyone. Experts talked about command clarity during stops and how conflicting orders raise risk. A training lead explained a plan to practice one-voice scenes where only one officer gave instructions while others watched for safety. A researcher presented numbers about bias and how training that includes community role players leads to better outcomes. Some testimony was raw. Some was technical. Together they sounded like a city trying to learn. Internal Affairs worked through their checklist. They compared timestamps across body cams. They matched those with the dashcam clock and with the first 911 call from a neighbor. The times lined up: stop at 9:18 p.m., first conflicting orders at 9:21, discharge at 9:22, backup on scene at 9:25, ambulance at 9:27. They paused the video frame where Maya's hand was on the seat belt button and her other hand still on the wheel. They rewound and listened again to the sentence, "I need one instruction." They wrote notes with phrases like opportunity to de-escalate and command confusion. One afternoon, Miss Daniels knocked on Maya's door with a small container of soup. They sat at Maya's small table and watched the kettle in case it screamed. Miss Daniels told her, "I saw you that night. I want you to know I told them exactly what I heard and saw. You were calm. You asked for help. You were careful. I said it plain." Maya thanked her. She told Miss Daniels about the library plan for Saturday and how she still wanted to go. "I'll go with you," Miss Daniels said. "We can pick a book and sit by the window and not talk if you don't want to." The thought warmed Maya like a quilt. Another day, Luis stopped by the community center to drop off a donation. He saw Maya at the front desk, moving a little slow but steady. "I didn't want to bother you," he said, "but I wanted to say I sent the original file to your lawyer, not just the clip. I also wrote down where I was standing and what I heard. If you ever need a ride to the hearing, I can help." Maya thanked him. She said she hoped he had good routes for running that did not have too many hills. He laughed and said, "Hills teach patience." The turning point became clear to Maya not in a courtroom or at a podium but in her living room, when Miss Green spread documents on the coffee table and said, "We have enough. Enough video, enough witness accounts, enough official words written in ink to show what happened: an early mistake, a woman who followed rules, a return of one shot as a warning, immediate surrender, calls for help, a rescue, and a city trying to learn from a hard night. We will ask the district attorney to close any case against you," Miss Green said. "And we will ask the department to address what broke down." Maya nodded. She felt tired, but it was a good kind of tired, the kind that comes after work that matters. She looked at the plant on her windowsill. New leaves had come in, tender and light. She boiled water and made tea. She added honey and held the cup in both hands. The tea smelled like quiet. She thought of her safety class and the way the instructor had said, "Time is a tool." She thought of the lieutenant slowing the street down with voice and breath. She thought of a city hearing where people spoke and listened. She thought of a library chair by a window where the light fell just right. That night, she wrote down 3 lines on a small card and taped it near her door. Breathe. Ask for one clear instruction. Tell the truth in simple words. It was not a grand plan, but it was enough. It felt like a steady step into whatever the next day would bring. Morning light came through Maya's curtains like soft cloth. She sat at the small table with a bowl of oatmeal and the little plant on the windowsill. The city felt different now, as if it had learned her name. Her phone blinked with messages from friends, co-workers, and people she did not know. Some notes were short, "thinking of you." Others were longer, full of advice and offers to help. Miss Green had told her, "Answer only what gives you peace. Leave the rest." So Maya made a simple rule: reply to kindness, ignore noise. That week began a series of tests, some public, some private. The public ones were cameras, microphones, and long rooms with rows of chairs. The private ones came at night when the apartment was quiet and the kettle's whistle seemed too loud. Both kinds asked the same question: will you stay true to yourself when the world looks at you? On Tuesday, Maya and Miss Green went to the district attorney's office for a recorded interview. The conference room was bright and simple. A pitcher of water stood in the center of the table like a small lake. 2 investigators and an assistant sat across from them with neat stacks of paper. Miss Green began by placing a folder on the table. "We will answer on video," she said. "We ask that questions be clear and not leading. If anything is unclear, we will pause." The lead investigator nodded. "That is fine." They started with basics: name, address, work, the time she left the office that night. Maya told the story again in clean lines: the stop, her words, the mixed orders, the sound that hurt, her single warning, her hands raised, the request for help. She never hurried. When she needed a breath, she took it. Miss Green placed a gentle hand on the table each time like a small anchor. "Thank you," the investigator said at the end. "We will review all materials and be in touch." Afterward, Miss Green and Maya walked 2 blocks to a quiet cafe. They shared a sandwich without talking for a while, the good kind of quiet that rests between people who trust each other. "You did well," Miss Green said at last. "You stayed simple. Simple words hold up." Maya nodded. "That's my plan," she said. "Simple words, steady breath." Meanwhile, more public steps moved forward. The city council held a hearing in a large chamber with wood walls and a high ceiling that made every voice sound a little bigger. People lined up at microphones to speak for 2 minutes each. A teacher shared a classroom lesson on clear instructions and said, "What we require of children, we should require of ourselves." A former officer described one-voice traffic stops where one person speaks while others keep watch. A nurse talked about the first minutes after harm and the duty to give help right away. A teenager in a denim jacket said he wanted to grow up in a place where slow and safe was the first rule. When his time ended, the room clapped softly, like rain. Lieutenant Rivera stood to present next. She did not perform. She brought a slide deck with times, policy text, and training clips. Conflicting commands raise risk, one slide read. Another read, one clear instruction at a time. She explained a new drill: officers would practice giving a single instruction, then wait for the person to repeat it back before moving on. "Time is a tool," she said. "We will practice using it." Outside the chamber, cameras waited. Some reporters asked for quick quotes. Maya kept walking. She had decided not to turn her pain into a show. Instead, she went to the community center to help with the resume class. "You're here," a client whispered. "Yes," Maya said with a small smile. I know how to format a cover letter. The city still needs jobs filled. The room relaxed. Work, after all, was its own kind of calm. At home that night, a new test arrived in the shape of a message from a number she did not know. It said, I'm sorry for what you went through. Then it said, please be careful online. It was good advice. She put her phone on Do Not Disturb, made tea, and opened a novel she had picked up at the library with Miss Daniels. They had kept that plan. The two women had walked the quiet aisles and chosen books, then sat by the window without speaking much. It had felt like a prayer made of pages. Across town, the internal affairs team kept working. They compared each body cam clip with the 911 timeline and with Luis's original file, not just the clip. They slowed frames and listened for small things, pauses, breaths, the order of words. They logged it all. One memo used careful phrases, opportunity for de-escalation missed, commands overlapped, civilian repeated request for one clear instruction. Another memo noted the way Lieutenant Rivera's voice changed the scene, calming effect, reduction in risk, time expanded. Officer Cole faced his own test. He met with a department psychologist and with his union representative. He wrote a statement and reviewed it. In another room, his training records were read line by line, traffic stop procedures, de-escalation modules, work with licensed carriers. A separate file contained past citizen complaints. Some were closed with no action, others had led to short coaching sessions. A new review looked not only at rules but at patterns, tone, timing, and choices under pressure. This was not about one night only, it was about all the nights that had come before and what they might teach. A local paper published a long, careful article. It walked readers through what was known and what was not, naming each source, linking to documents, and avoiding sharp words. It asked questions about training design and supervision. It did not guess. It did not shout. It modeled patience in print. Miss Green clipped the article and slid it into her folder. This helps, she said. Calm writing makes space for calm thinking. Community support found simple forms. The pastor from the nearby church organized a listening circle in the park. Folding chairs made a wide ring under a few trees. People took turns speaking while a talking piece just a smooth river stone moved from hand to hand. When you held the stone, you had the floor. When you passed it, you listened. Maya went for a little while and said only this, I want everyone to get home safe. That is all. Then she passed the stone. The whole circle murmured a soft thank you, the way people do when they agree on something that matters. The city announced a pilot program, a community role-player group would join the academy twice a month. Volunteers would act out stops and everyday calls while instructors paused and rewound to practice small choices: voice, distance, repeat back. A trainer explained, we will drill the habit of one instruction at a time. We will drill the pause. We will drill the question, what do you need from me to do this safely? The plan sounded simple because it had to be simple to work. Maya still had private tests. Sometimes, when a car behind her braked too close, her breath caught. So she made a small ritual before she drove, 2 slow breaths, a short sentence you are safe and a check of the mirror for the sake of care, not fear. She played gentle music and took routes with good lighting. She told herself, you know how to ask for one clear instruction. You know how to wait. It helped. Miss Daniels came by with soup and good gossip about the block, the new cat that had adopted Mr. Lee, the kid who had learned to ride a bike, the porch plant that had finally bloomed after 2 years of stubborn green. Normal things were steady stones in the river. Luis dropped off a map of his favorite running paths and wrote on it, good views here, and, flat stretch easy on the knees. Maya smiled. Community is just people handing each other maps, she thought. The council scheduled a second hearing, this one for specific policy votes. The room was full again. Proposals moved across the board: clearer language for traffic stops, a requirement that officers state one instruction at a time, a checklist to render aid fast when anyone is hurt, an early alert review for officers who showed stress signs, and a plan to release relevant video within a set time. People debated details. Then the votes came: ayes and nays, names called out one by one. Most measures passed. One member said, "We cannot change yesterday, but we can build better habits for tomorrow." The chamber exhaled. Maya's workplace held a small lunch for her on Friday. The director spoke about grace under pressure. Co-workers shared a cake with blue icing that read, "We're glad you're here." Maya cut the first slice and said, "Thank you for holding my desk and my heart." Laughter bubbled around the room. For 1 hour, life felt ordinary in the best way. Later that day, Miss Green received a packet from the district attorney's office. She read it twice, then called Maya. "They are close to a decision," she said. "They will review once more with their senior team." Maya listened and nodded to herself. She had learned not to ride each update like a storm wave. She stood unsure. She watched. She waited. That evening, she and her mother took a slow walk at sunset. The sky turned a soft orange and then a gentle purple, like a bruise healing into twilight. They did not talk about the case. They talked about the neighbor's porch plant, the library hours, and whether to try a new tea brand. Near the end of the block, the man from the bus stop waved. "Thank you for the sandwich," he called. It was perfect. Maya's mother squeezed her hand. "See," she said. "Seeds grow." In another building across town, a different meeting took place. A panel reviewed internal affairs findings. They looked at charts, listened to audio, and paused video at key moments. Words were careful, like policy failure, training gap, and corrective action. They discussed how leaders set tone and how tone becomes practice. They agreed on next steps that were both personal and structural. "People sometimes think accountability is a single door," Maya would later reflect. But really it is a hallway with many doors: truth, care, repair, and change. News stations reported on the policy votes and the pilot program. Commentators invited experts who knew how to explain without heat. A segment showed cadets practicing the one-voice drill with community role players. "Instruction," the cadet said. "Repeat it back." The role player repeated it back. "Good," the trainer said. "Now wait. Let time help you." Viewers wrote in to say they wanted that kind of training to continue long after the story left the front page. On Sunday, Maya and Miss Daniels kept another promise: a quiet hour at the library. They sat near the window with their books. Sun warmed the table. A child in the next row whispered questions to a parent, and the whisper sounded like a song about the world. When they got up to leave, the librarian waved them over. "This came in," she said, handing Maya a hold slip. It was for a book about calm speech under stress. "We ordered extra copies," the librarian said with a wink. It seemed timely. Back home, Maya placed the book on her table next to the card she had taped up days earlier. She read her 3 lines again: breathe. Ask for one clear instruction. Tell the truth in simple words, and added a 4th, share what you learn. She did not know yet what the final outcome would be. That was a door not opened. But she knew who she was and how she wanted to move through rooms, even hard ones. That night, she wrote a short note to Lieutenant Rivera: "Thank you for your calm at the scene and for the training you are building." She wrote another to the paramedic: "Lena, your voice made space for breath." She wrote to Miss Green: "You gave me simple language when I needed it most." She did not send the notes right away. She placed them in a small stack, tied them with string, and set them by the plant. Gratitude, like tea, was better when steeped. When she turned off the lamp, the room did not feel empty. It felt held by neighbors, by simple policies that were starting to make sense, by new habits practiced on bright training mats, by quiet rooms with books and windows, by people who chose slow over loud. The tests were not over. But Maya had passed a hard one. She had kept her center while the city watched. And the city, in small, human ways, had begun to find its center too. The call came on a clear morning just after sunrise, when the light on Maya's kitchen floor looked like a quiet river. Miss Green's voice was calm, as always. "I have news," she said. Maya braced herself without meaning to. "The district attorney will not bring charges against you," Miss Green continued. "They reviewed every file, every video, every statement. Your single warning was judged lawful self-defense in a moment of danger. They're announcing it today." Maya let out a breath she had been holding for weeks. It felt like setting down a heavy bag she had carried much too far. "Thank you," she said. "Thank you for helping the truth stand up." Miss Green waited a beat and then added, "Internal affairs also finished. The department found the use of force against you unjustified. The officer is off duty and faces disciplinary action as well as a separate review by an outside board. Training changes will be permanent." The words were simple, but they sounded like doors closing and new ones opening. Maya looked at the plant on her windowsill. 2 new leaves had unfolded in the night. She touched one with the tip of her finger and whispered, "Grow." The announcement came at noon on the city steps. The district attorney spoke first, brief and clear: "The law, the facts, the decision." Then the police chief outlined the changes: 1 voice traffic stops citywide, a firm rule to give aid immediately when anyone is hurt, a requirement to release relevant video within a set time, and a training program that used community role players twice a month. When the chief finished, reporters looked toward Maya. She had promised herself she would not turn her life into a show, but she also knew some words needed to be said out loud, once, so the air could hold them. She stepped to the microphone with Miss Green at her side. Her mother stood 10 feet back, hands clasped, eyes bright. Maya spoke the way she lived the hardest moments, slow, simple, steady. "I'm grateful to be alive," she said. "I'm grateful to the neighbors who came to their doors, to the jogger who filmed, to the paramedics who kept their voices calm, and to the lieutenant who slowed everything down. I am grateful to the people who reviewed the truth carefully. I want what everyone wants, to get home safe. I hope these changes help. Please take care of each other." She nodded once, stepped away, and did not answer shouted questions. She had said what she came to say. Life did not snap back like a rubber band. It returned like a tide, in soft waves that touched more shore each day. Maya went back to work at the community center and found the rhythm of helping people with forms and interviews. She typed in clean fonts, fixed commas, and reminded folks to breathe before saying their strengths out loud. "Time is a tool," she would tell nervous job seekers. "Use it." When she said it, she heard the echo of the lieutenant on the street, the trainer's voice at the academy, and her own voice in the ambulance. A phrase that had saved her life could also save a shaky interview. On a Saturday afternoon, the community center hosted a Know Your Rights, Know Your Com workshop. Miss Green volunteered a short segment on rights during stops. Lieutenant Rivera came to demonstrate how one-voice instructions sound. A trainer showed a simple breathing drill: in for 4, out for 4. The pastor from the park circle opened the session and then faded to the back row. Louise stood near the door and handed out small cards Maya had designed the night before with her 3 lines and the new 4th, breathe. Ask for one clear instruction. Tell the truth in simple words. Share what you learn. People slid the cards into wallets and phone cases. One teen tucked hers into a shoe, tapping it for courage like a pre-game ritual. Not every moment was easy. Some nights, the kettle's whistle still startled her. When a patrol car pulled up behind her on a bright afternoon and then passed, she noticed her shoulders were high near her ears. She practiced lowering them, inch by inch. She spoke to herself the way Lena, the paramedic, had spoken to her, short, kind sentences. "You're okay. This is now. Look at the road, not the rear view." She brought a small steadying habit to her days. Before leaving home, she placed a hand on the plant's pot and named 3 ordinary things she loved: fresh laundry, library paper, the sound of keys clinking in a bowl. Ordinary things were the true pillars of a life. One week, the city council invited Maya to observe a training day at the academy. She sat in the bleachers with coffee as cadets practiced traffic stops with community role players. Each scene started with a calm greeting: "Good evening. I'm Officer Lee. One instruction at a time. Please place your hands on the wheel." The role player, a retired teacher with the patience of a saint, asked clarifying questions the way Maya had: "Do you want me to move now or wait?" The instructor would pause the scene like a teacher pausing a film in class. "Hear that?" he'd say. "That is the moment to breathe, repeat, and slow." Watching, Maya felt the tight knot that had lived under her ribs start to loosen. A month later, the department released its first report on the new measures. It listed plain numbers: fewer complaints about confusing commands, faster aid at scenes, more positive comments from community role players. A bar graph showed a gentle curve in the right direction. It was not magic. It was practice. The paper that had written the careful article earlier published another piece: "Sober, grateful, still watchful." Miss Green clipped this one, too, and mailed it to Maya with a sticky note: "Slow work, good work." Miss Daniels kept stopping by with stories about the block. A kid had learned to do a cartwheel. The porch plant had surprised everyone with small purple flowers. The bus stop man, Mr. Aaron, they now knew had found part-time work at the grocery store. One evening, Maya took him a thermos and a wrap. He handed her a small token in return, a smooth coin with a hole in the center. "Lucky," he said. "You carry it for a while. When you don't need it, pass it on." She slid it onto a ribbon and wore it like a quiet promise. One morning brought a letter on heavy paper with a seal at the top. It was from the Independent Review Board. They had completed their process and upheld the findings: unjustified force, policy failure, and required corrective action. They recommended that the department maintain the new training and expand it. They also recommended listening sessions every quarter with community members and officers together, not the kind where people take turns giving speeches, but the kind where small groups talk and someone writes the shared words on big paper: clear words, one voice, aid first, respect, patience. Maya attended one of those sessions. An officer in her group said, "It helps to hear how the same moment feels on the other side." A student said, "It helps to see the person, not just the uniform." They nodded at each other like neighbors meeting at a fence. There was one decision Maya did not make quickly. A counselor working with the department's restorative program asked if she would consider a structured conversation with the officer, facilitated by professionals, only if and when she wanted, only if it felt right. Maya put the invitation on her fridge with a magnet shaped like a lemon. Weeks passed. Every day she looked at it and asked herself a small, honest question: would this help me heal? When the answer finally felt like a real yes and not a polite one, she agreed to a meeting. The room was neutral and warm, with soft chairs and a table for water and tissues. 2 facilitators sat with them. Maya spoke first about fear, clarity, and the wish to go home safe. The officer spoke next about confusion, mistakes, and how fear had narrowed his mind when it needed to widen. He did not make excuses. He asked to say the words "I'm sorry" without adding any other words. He said them. The facilitators let the quiet sit. Maya did not forgive in a dramatic way. Forgiveness, she had learned, was not a switch, it was a path made of honest steps. "I want a safer city," she said. "I want habits that keep everyone alive. Please help build those habits with your story." He nodded. Later, She was grateful she had gone. Not because it fixed everything, but because it added one more true sentence to the record. Seasons turned. The plant on the windowsill kept making new leaves. The kettle still yelled, she still laughed at it. At the community center, Maya added a new class once a month, Calm Talk Under Pressure. She began each session by sharing a memory of a time she had to slow a moment down, not the night everyone knew about, but smaller moments, a tense meeting, a crowded bus, a difficult phone call. You can practice calm in everyday scenes, she told the class. Then it's there for you when you really need it. People wrote their own 3-line cards, tailored to their lives. Pause. Ask a clear question. Say what's true. The cards lined wallets and nightstands like tiny lighthouses. On a bright Sunday, the city held a community day at the park. Cadets showed families how the new training worked. Kids tried on little reflective vests and practiced saying, one at a time, to each other with giggles. A muralist invited people to paint a long wall with simple shapes and words, hands, hearts, arrows pointing in patient directions, and phrases like breathe and one voice. Maya added a small square with a window and a plant. Miss Daniels painted a porch. Louise painted a trail that ran off the wall like a promise that there was more good road ahead. When they stepped back, the wall did not look like one person's story. It looked like a city telling itself how to be. Sometime that summer, Maya and Louise met for a walk that turned into a slow, happy jog. They did not talk about that night. They talked about shoes, playlists, and the best spot for water. When they stopped, they stood on a footbridge and watched the river move under them. Hills teach patience, he joked again. And flat stretches teach joy, she added. They high-fived like kids who had learned a trick. At home that evening, Maya opened the window to let in the soft noise of the city, a bus sighing to a stop, laughter from the sidewalk, a radio 2 floors up playing an old song. She boiled water and wrote a few more cards for the drawer at the community center. She pulled the small stack of thank you notes she had tied with string and finally mailed them, one to Lena, one to Lieutenant Rivera, one to Miss Green, one to the library, one to the teacher who had role-played at the academy. Gratitude, steeped long, tasted even better than she expected. Before bed, she stood at the door where her card still hung and added one last line with a pencil, keep choosing the small, good thing. She thought of the sandwich that had found its way to Mr. Aaron. She thought of the neighbor who had stepped onto her porch. She thought of the jogger who had stopped and filmed. She thought of a lieutenant who had used her voice to widen time. She thought of a lawyer who had carried careful words like tools. She thought of a city that had chosen training over denial, patience over noise, practice over pride. Maya turned off the light. The room was not silent, it was alive with quiet sounds that meant safety, the click of the fridge, the tick of a clock, the hush of tires on the street below. She lay down with one hand over the place on her arm where a scar had formed a thin, pale line like a thread. It did not tell the whole story, but it told enough. She closed her eyes and saw a simple path of chalk squares, like the ones faint on the sidewalk outside. One square, then the next, then the next. That is how you cross even the hardest street. Not by jumping the whole way, but by choosing the next good square and stepping onto it with care.